Rejected widow of 3 sons discovers incredible new life when Cowboy says, "You're home now." Claire Lawson stared at the dilapidated ranch, feeling both a spark of familiarity and a crushing weight of sorrow. Memories flooded her mind, echoing laughter that felt like a ghostly serenade in the stillness. The sun hung low, casting an orange hue over the dusty land, where wildflowers fought to bloom amidst the decay. A symbolic battle for life she could hardly partake in. Once a bright-eyed teacher who ignited passion in minds, Claire now felt eclipsed by the shadows of grief. How had she become the town's whispered tale, the widow of her 3 sons, lost to a crisis that no one seemed willing to address? The pressures from every knowing glance felt like sharp daggers, festering her pain into something deeper. As her fingers grazed the weathered wood of the porch, a knotted, bitter knot twisted in her stomach. She was a ghost, haunting her own life. Where was the woman who dreamed bright dreams, inspiring the youth at school? She had become just a rumor, trapped in a web of sorrow and blame. Jake appeared from nowhere, his rugged presence a comforting distraction. "What do you think, Claire? This place has potential," he offered, his spirited tone slicing through her despair. But could she embrace this land? It seemed a futile effort, mired in the memories she'd rather forget. With each slide of her glove into her hand, she felt the weight of her moral dilemma. Should she truly resurrect the ranch, or was she merely chasing echoes of what her life once was? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Slowly she rolled up her sleeves, her heart aching with trepidation as she faced paint cans and tools. Each swipe brought clarity alongside confusion. The vibrant strokes painted over her raw memories. But lingering doubts clung to her like stubborn smoke. What would the townspeople think? Had they already judged her for wanting to reclaim joy? The whispers buzzed in her ears, drowning out the softer voice that murmured encouragement. Jake reassured her, offering a hand whenever she faltered, igniting something deep within her. A dream to start a therapeutic horseback riding program for grieving families. The thought surged through her with electric urgency, yet the weight of rejection hovered ominously. Could she truly transform this broken town? The task felt monumental, the obstacles insurmountable. Then shadows of town leaders clouded her vision, whispers of their corruption drifting through her mind like wisps of smoke. They would not want her success, would they? Anxiety clawed at her throat as visions of powerful figures scheming to keep the status quo washed over her. The tension rising, spiraling into the depths of her soul as unknown battles lay ahead. And just like that, standing amidst the overgrown fields, Claire felt uncertain once more. Jake's booming voice echoed in her ears, "You're home now!" His optimism felt like a lifeline, yet her spirit wrestled with lingering fear. Could she dare to hope, knowing the demons of her past and the town's toxic layers still loomed? Questions gnawed at her mind, and Claire felt the world shift beneath her feet. As the light dwindled, the horizon painted in colors of despair and hope, the tension coiled tighter within her, a whirlwind of anguish and determination thrumming like thunder in the stormy Texas sky. What awaited her on this path ahead? Would she find acceptance or face the haunting pushback from a town that had all but turned its back? The ghosts still hung heavy in the air, unresolved and demanding to be confronted. The chill of evening settled in as Claire stood alone on the porch, the last rays of sunlight illuminating the dust motes swirling like lost dreams. With each stroke of paint, she draped layers of color over old miseries, trying to mask the scars etched into both the wood and her heart. An unfamiliar determination began to flicker, ignited by the sheer need to reclaim her narrative. Each brushstroke became both a weapon and a shield. It was time to fight back against the whispers that haunted her steps. But self-doubt bubbled beneath the surface like a persistent itch. She glanced toward the distant horizon where ominous clouds gathered, tempering her resolve. What if she failed? What if she didn't possess the courage to transform this dilapidated space into something beautiful? The vision of a thriving equine therapy program increasingly felt like a mirage, shimmering just out of reach. Would the townspeople regard her endeavor with the skepticism she feared, or would they see it as a beacon of hope? Suddenly, Jake's presence surged back into focus. As he tossed a well-worn towel over a nearby work table, his casual confidence reverberated against her insecurities. "You know," he said, turning his blue eyes toward her, "this place is a reflection of who we are. We can breathe life back into it if we just keep moving forward." His words struck a chord deep within her, resonating against the din of her anxious thoughts. Yet, as much as his encouragement buoyed her spirit, Claire grappled with more than just the logistics of restoration. In venturing down this path, she would expose her heart to criticism, not just from the townsfolk, but from herself. The same fear that had kept her shackled to her grief now urged her to protect her heart at all costs. Could she risk the possibility of deeper pain by inviting hope back into her life? Jake had sparked something in her with those words. Instead of considering the obstacles, she began to contemplate the action required to realize her dreams. "What if," she said, contemplating the potential of her work, "this space could be a sanctuary, a place where others could heal, just like me?" With that thought swirling in her mind, Claire jotted down her ideas on the back of an old envelope. Natural therapy courses, community writing sessions, and children's workshops focusing on emotional growth through interaction with horses. Each idea felt like an affirmation of her commitment to reignite her passion and purpose. But before she could immerse herself in the exhilarating possibilities, the faint sound of footsteps interrupted her thoughts. She turned to see several figures walking toward the ranch. The town leaders, draped in an air of authority she knew all too well. Something twisted in her gut as their shadows loomed larger, bringing a formidable presence that felt at odds with the vision she had begun to cultivate. It hit her then. If she wanted to reclaim her place in both the ranch and the town, she had to confront them. The thought sent a bolt of adrenaline through her veins. What would it take to shift their perception? A daunting silence enveloped her as she met their stares. This encounter would require more than strength. Her heart would need to remain steadfast in its pursuit of change. They brought with them the weight of her fears, but also the opportunity to face the adversity she so deeply loathed. "Good evening," Claire began, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'd like to discuss a vision for this ranch." While uncertainty lurked behind her words, a flicker of resolve blazed within her. Stepping into her power felt like stepping onto unsteady ground, but perhaps it was time to settle into the storm. In that moment there was no turning back. The confrontation was imminent, and with it came the chance for clarity, growth, and endless possibilities. What stance would they take? Would they empower her, or send her dreams crashing down in an instant? The answer teetered in uncertainty, foreshadowing a pivotal clash between the past she so desperately wanted to escape and the future she ardently desired to embrace. Claire's heart pounded as she stood before the town leaders, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. A tangle of emotions coursed through her. This was a pivotal moment, a chance to shed the skin of her past, yet fear clawed at her insides. How could she expect them to believe in her vision when she could barely convince herself? The leader at the forefront, a man named Thompson with salt and pepper hair, crossed his arms and leaned in, scrutinizing her. "What do you envision, Claire? This ranch has seen its fair share of ups and downs, and frankly, we need to consider the financial viability of your ideas." His words sliced through her. She had anticipated resistance, but this was harsher than she'd thought. Ignoring the tremor in her voice, she replied, "I want to create a therapeutic environment using horses to help others heal, just as I have." There was a pause, an echoed silence that felt like an eternity. Claire could feel their collective gaze intensifying as they weighed her words against their own doubts. Another voice broke the tension. "It's a noble idea, but how do you plan to fund this?" It belonged to a woman named Mrs. Ellis, known for her no-nonsense approach to community affairs. Claire couldn't help but respect the rifle-like focus of her query, though it pierced through her optimism. "I've been researching grant opportunities," Claire hastened to explain, recalling the visits with Jake to local banks and the conversations about potential sponsors. "Plus, community engagement will be pivotal. I plan to offer workshops and collaborate with schools. We can show the town that this ranch can be a resource for emotional growth, not just a remnant of the past." As she spoke, her voice grew firmer, each word resonating with conviction. In a way, it was therapeutic for her. It reminded her of all the nights she had pored over plans and mock budgets, whispering hope into the darkness of her thoughts. Thompson shifted his weight, a subtle acknowledgement. Community engagement could sway minds, but running a program like this isn't straightforward. It will take more than good intentions. You need a plan. She nodded, trying to suppress the knot in her stomach. "I understand that. I'm willing to break it down into phases, showcasing tangible results. I want feedback. I want the community involved. This isn't just my endeavor. It can belong to everyone." With every word, Claire felt the stirrings of passion pushing her forward, mending the fissures left by past hurt. The irony wasn't lost on her. This very confrontation that once inspired fear was now propelling her into newfound strength. Yet still, doubt hung in the air. If these leaders turned away, it would mean heartbreak, a reminder of what she was trying to leave behind. She could almost sense the townspeople's judgment, but a flicker of hope interjected. "So," Mrs. Ellis finally said, her tone softening a touch, "let's say your vision gains traction. Would you share the ranch's profits with the town in some way?" Claire took a breath, this question a clear invitation. "Absolutely. I believe in reciprocity. This ranch can be a community hub, providing emotional well-being and physical engagement. I wouldn't ask for anything without giving back." The room's energy shifted slightly. A collective exhale seemed to ricochet around the small circle, the weight of skepticism lightening just a fraction. "The future of this ranch cannot solely rest on fulfillment of my dreams," Claire added, her voice unwavering. "It has to be bigger than me. This is about healing and renewal for us all." In that moment, she discovered a latent talent for rhetoric she never knew she possessed, the ability to fold complex ideas into the framework of community benefit. As she spoke, Claire felt resilience brewing in her chest, not just for herself, but for the purpose she was about to uncover. Silence filled the air once more, and Claire held her breath, knowing that their next words could either bolster her resolve or collapse her ambitions. Then Thompson cleared his throat and tilted his head, as if considering her carefully crafted words for the first time. "Perhaps we can explore these concepts further, but understand, Claire, this won't be easy." The flicker of possibility ignited her once more. "I embrace the challenge." With that, she felt something shift deep within her. Was this the first step toward redefining her life, transforming both the ranch and herself? As they discussed next steps, Claire realized that this journey was not just about confronting the town. It was about asserting her place in her life and letting go of the doubts that once tethered her. The meeting came to an end, but Claire's heart raced with a newfound urgency. She wouldn't merely accept this challenge, she would conquer it. As she stepped off the porch, determination renewed, she caught sight of Jake in the fading light. At that moment, a question rose unbidden within her. What about her past remained to be conquered before she could finally claim her true identity? Her journey was just beginning. Claire's feet scarcely touched the ground as she moved away from the porch, her heart a chaotic blend of exhilaration and hope. Each step felt laden with purpose. She was no longer merely a widow burdened by her past, but a woman poised at the dawn of a transformative journey. Jake approached her, the evening sun casting long shadows that stretched between them. His brows were furrowed, confusion etched in the lines of his forehead. "How did it go?" he asked, his voice low and steady. "It went better than I expected," Claire replied, surprise trickling into her tone. The earlier vulnerability had solidified into a steely determination. "They're willing to entertain my ideas. It's a tentative step, but a step nonetheless. I might actually have a chance at this." His expression softened, and he took a moment to absorb her words. "You really believe in this, don't you?" "I do," Claire affirmed resolutely, squaring her shoulders. "This isn't just for the ranch anymore. It's about finding my footing again, feeling grounded in a way I haven't felt in years." Jake nodded, but she spotted the flicker of concern in his eyes. A weight of responsibility had settled between them. They both understood the high stakes, yet Claire could sense something deeper beside his support, an allusion to his own fears. "How do you plan to put all of this into action?" he asked, tilting his head to catch her gaze. The question struck her like a lightning bolt. It was one thing to dream, putting those dreams to work was another beast entirely. "I've got some ideas, but it means developing a detailed plan. I'll need to research more on grants and outreach strategies, and honestly, who I bring on board could make or break this project. Have you thought about tapping into your network? People from your past, those you've worked with in therapy, or volunteers from other programs?" His voice was low, probing, as if he were testing her resolve. Claire hesitated before replying. While there were individuals she admired from those circles, reaching out felt like exposing scars that had just begun to heal. "I'll consider it," she finally admitted, her throat tightening. Even the thought of connecting with others who shared similar vulnerabilities scared her. For so long she had nestled within her own grief, shying away from assistance. As they walked together, the soft sounds of the ranch surrounded them. The crickets chirped and the horses shifted, their bodies moving as if mirroring Claire's inner tumult. She wanted to embrace her evolving identity, but feared the weight of her past would crush the tentative breath of hope she was nurturing. "What about the skills you picked up during your work before, those workshops?" Jake prompted gently, a strategy emerging in his phrasing. "People were always drawn to you. You had a way of bringing them together." Her chest tightened at the mention of her previous life. Would those skills matter now? She had been a facilitator back then, not a leader. Suddenly, a flicker of possibility surged within her. "You're right. I can use my experience to create workshops and training sessions that highlight not only the horses, but the psychological work that comes with understanding them. It's all tied together." For the first time, the path ahead didn't appear daunting. Instead, it was illuminated with potential. Discussions of these workshops, coupled with Jake's supportive presence, infused each concept with vigor. The twinkling stars began to dot the darkening sky as they approached the stables. Claire could see the horses inside, soft and calm, a living testament to her vision. Each animal symbolized healing, solace, and connection, everything she was striving to cultivate. "So, what's next?" Jake asked, emphasizing her newfound spark.
I need to start drafting plans. Researching funding will be key, and I have to gather support, people who understand this journey. The realization that she had to face potential rejection again sent a jolt through her. What if the town didn't embrace her vision? Just as quickly, Claire quelled the burgeoning doubt. She had to keep moving forward, keep insisting on her worth. "Let's make a timeline," Jake encouraged, enthusiasm rising in his tone. "We can break it down into actionable steps." Claire's heart raced with the simplicity of that idea. Actionable. It wasn't merely about her emotional state. It required strategy. If we create that plan, I'll trust both the process and myself. As they stepped inside the stable, she felt a profound sense of belonging envelop her. Little did she know this would ignite a series of revelations that would reshape her understanding of who she truly was. But just as Claire felt a semblance of peace, a shadow flickered behind her thoughts, doubt lingering at the edges.
If past fears reemerged, challenging her newfound strength? The night deepened around them, and the question hung heavy in the air. Could she truly unearth the self-worth required to face what lay beyond her horizon? With that looming uncertainty shrouding her mind, the path forward now felt laden with challenges yet to be confronted. Claire stared into the darkness of the stable as she prepared herself for the work that lay ahead. As the deep night settled around the ranch, Claire's mind buzzed with possibilities and what-ifs. The quiet hum of the stable became a cocoon, amplifying her thoughts. She leaned against a wooden beam, the rough texture grounding her as she sought clarity amid the swirling doubts. The idea of creating workshops still sparked a thrill, but now it felt daunting. Each concept was like a horse needing to be trained. There were countless details to attend to, and she couldn't help but wonder if she had the stamina to see it through. Did she truly possess the leadership qualities Jake believed she had? What if the support she sought remained elusive? These questions weighed heavily on her, mixing with a resurgence of the old insecurities she thought she'd begun to tame. It would require a leap of faith, confronting not only the fears of others potentially rejecting her, but also the nagging voice within that seemed bent on repeating her past failures. Taking a deep breath, Claire looked out into the starlit field, the silhouettes of the horses soft against the horizon. They were tranquil yet potent, powerful yet gentle. She realized that her journey wasn't just about her renown. It was also about nurturing her community's well-being through her healing approach. Each horse was a piece of her mission, each one a testament to what she could offer others. In that moment, the clarity emerged like dawn breaking over a dark landscape. Her heart quickened, an uplifting rush surging through her veins. This was about more than just filling a void. This was about constructing a bridge for others to cross as they navigate their own grief and recovery. With renewed resolve, Claire took a step back from self-doubt and began to craft her vision. She reached into her pocket, pulling out a small notebook she'd kept since the beginning of her storms. Its pages filled with raw ideas scrawled in haste, tangled emotions spilling forth like ink. Finding a pen, she flipped to a new page. With each letter she wrote, Claire felt herself stepping out of the shadows of her past. Workshops, she began, drawing a line under the word. Connection with horses and mental health awareness. Each bullet point that followed flowed effortlessly, a framework taking shape in front of her, as if the words had always belonged there, waiting for her to uncover them. Finding the perfect balance between her experiences and the emotional tools she would employ felt liberating. Claire felt herself transforming from a figure shrouded in loss into one sculpted by resilience and hope. She wrote about reaching out to former colleagues, sharing her intention with them, knowing they might resonate with her mission. Just then, a soft nicker from one of the horses drew her attention. Claire looked up and saw a familiar chestnut mare, Cassie, gazing back at her with soulful, intelligent eyes.
"You always seem to know when I need support," she whispered, crossing the stable to stand beside her. Running her fingers through the mare's mane, Claire felt a wave of understanding wash over her. It was in these quiet moments that clarity often emerged. "Okay, girl," she murmured, "time to take some big steps." With fresh momentum guiding her thoughts, Claire envisioned each detail of her outreach plan: strategies for recruitment, methods of engagement, and, ultimately, the workshops themselves. Suddenly, the weight of the past seemed lighter, and the dawning promise of the future shimmered on the horizon. The timing was right, the community needed her, and she needed them. Yet amid the lightness, fear still lingered. What if the town wasn't ready for her unique approach? What if people doubted her abilities? It was a hostility that she had confronted before. Would she rise, or would she shrink back? Just as these thoughts collided in her mind, the stable door opened and Jake stepped inside, his silhouette framed by moonlight. He approached, a blend of pride and concern etched on his face. "Everything all right?" he asked, noting her intensity as she jotted down ideas. Before she could respond, Claire was hit by a sudden epiphany. "I'm ready to share this vision with the town, but first—" She paused, meeting his gaze. "Will you come with me when I reach out? I might need the strength of your belief in my ideas." His eyes brightened, a smile breaking across his face that calmed the bubbling storm within her. "Absolutely. Together we can make them see what this can become." As a warmth settled in her heart, Claire realized she needed others' support, but they also needed her courage to forge a new path. The daunting horizon was now a shared expanse, filled with uncharted opportunities. But with uncertainty still nagging at the corners of her mind, she knew the greatest challenges lay ahead. Would the town truly embrace her vision, or would she have to dispel the anxieties swirling around self-worth and acceptance? Just as she felt a sense of clarity and commitment, that relentless shadow re-emerged. Could she withstand the potential fallout if no one believed in her? As dawn broke over the ranch, the first rays of sunlight spilled into the stable, casting a warm glow on the bustling activity of the day. Claire awoke with a jolt, the notebook still in her lap, the ink on the pages almost as vibrant as the new ideas thrumming in her mind. What had initially felt like a vague ambition now reverberated with an urgency she hadn't anticipated. Today was the day she would take her first tangible steps toward realization. After a quick breakfast, Claire steeled herself for what was to come. With each step toward the town's small coffee shop, her heart raced. Today, she would reconnect with former colleagues, professionals who had once shared her passion for healing through connections, albeit this time with horses at the core of her vision. As she entered the shop, the comforting aroma of coffee mingled with the sharp scent of pastries. A few familiar faces glanced up, smiling, acknowledging her presence. Yet amid the greetings and casual small talk, Claire felt an undercurrent of anxiety. What if they laughed at her idea? What if they saw her as a fleeting memory of who she used to be rather than who she was becoming? Despite the voice of doubt nagging her, Claire approached a table where two former colleagues, Lisa and Tom, were engrossed in conversation. They hadn't seen her since her husband passed, and the fragility of that connection felt potent. Gathering her courage, she cleared her throat. "Hey, everyone, do you mind if I join you?" They welcomed her with smiles that warmed the air around them. Claire kept her demeanor light, yet internally she wrestled with what to say, how to frame her vision. "I've been working on something new," she began, feeling the words bubble up, a little awkward but filled with sincerity. "It's about using horses for therapeutic workshops to help people process their grief." With each phrase, she cautioned herself with silent affirmations. This is meaningful. They need to hear this. Lisa leaned forward, intrigued. "That's actually really interesting. What makes you think it will work?" The challenge in Lisa's voice prompted an internal shift within Claire. Grief can be isolating, and horses have a way of connecting people. I want to help others by sharing what I've learned. I think there's power in shared experiences, and in the unspoken bond between a person and a horse. Tom nodded thoughtfully, pulling at his beard. It sounds ambitious, Claire, but what do you need from us? In that moment, she recognized a crack in her wall of insecurity. Here was an opportunity to embrace vulnerability. Honestly, support. I'm not sure how to get this off the ground, and I want to know if it's something you might believe in. I need people who can see the potential in this model. There was a pause, and Claire's heart thudded loudly in her chest. Could she truly lay herself bare? Finally, Tom spoke, his voice steady. If we can assist in getting the word out, I'd be willing to help. This could be a game changer for folks. A rush of warmth spread through Claire, solidifying her resolve. Lisa chimed in, her enthusiasm palpable. Count me in, too. I'd love to see more people believe in the healing power of horses. The conversation flowed, ideas bouncing back and forth as the coffee shop slowly filled with the morning crowd. Claire reveled in her growing confidence, each moment shedding pieces of self-doubt. She was among allies, weaving plans together that could change lives, including her own.
They discussed logistics, though. The earlier anxiety returned. Would they truly uphold their commitment? What would she do if support waned once the excitement of novelty faded? After exchanging contact information and planning an upcoming brainstorming session, Claire stepped outside into sunlight that burned away traces of doubt. But even with the exhilaration of companionship, another layer of anxiety lay ahead. The clock was ticking. She still needed validation from the community. What if the town rejected this approach outright? Walking back to the ranch, the rhythm of her steps mirrored the rhythm of her thoughts. She was ready to step into the fray. But as the sun dipped low, casting elongated shadows behind her, she thought of the unyielding obstacles yet to be faced. The power of resistance lurked in the unknown as a whisper in her mind. Standing before the stable door, Claire hesitated, gripping the handle tightly. There was a determination in her eyes, a challenge she was willing to accept. Could she confront the fear of falling flat on her face? Inside, Cassie quietly approached, sensing the turbulence in Claire's heart. In that moment of connection, she grasped what was at stake, not just her workshop vision, but her very identity. The night would be long with unanswered questions, but tomorrow she would start confronting doubts head-on. Would her ideas break through the barriers or become too fragile to sustain? With that question looming, Claire silently vowed to step past the shadow of defeat, ready to etch her mark on the path ahead. Tomorrow's encounter with the town would either propel her forward or shatter the still dreams she had nurtured in solitude. The following morning arrived cloaked in a veil of uncertainty. Claire rose with the sun, but found herself burdened by the weight of unfulfilled expectations. The notebook lay open beside her, a silent witness to her fervent hopes and the fragility of her resolve. As she slid out of bed, she felt each muscle in her body tense with apprehension, a physical reminder of the challenge that awaited her. After breakfast, she gathered her notes and made a short trip to the barn, breathing in the earthy scent of hay and horses. Cassie greeted her with a gentle nuzzle, offering the kind of unwavering support Claire desperately needed. In that moment, she quietly resolved that no matter the outcome, she would lean into the comfort Cassie provided. This was her foundation, her refuge. Yet living in that space of comfort felt deceptively safe. Could she really step back into the world and advocate for a concept that teetered on the brink of acceptance? With her stomach churning, Claire saddled into the saddle. She often found that time with Cassie offered her clarity, but today, even riding felt heavy with doubt. The rhythmic pounding of hooves matched the chaotic beat of her heart,
and she couldn't ignore the whisper of defeat lurking in the back of her mind. As they galloped down the familiar path, Claire's thoughts spiraled. What if
today's meetup with the community turned into a public humiliation? What if people laughed at her? The urge to retreat back into the solace of the ranch collided with an equally powerful longing to reclaim her voice. This was a pivotal moment, a line in the sand, and she needed to muster every ounce of courage she possessed. Hours later, standing in front of the community hall, walls adorned with posters depicting various local events, Claire closed her eyes, envisioning an audience eager to listen. This was her moment to transcend the role of a grieving widow. It was time to become an advocate, a warrior for healing. But doubt gnawed at her resolve. Would they accept her vision or merely sympathize with her loss? She took a deep breath and stepped through the entrance, the familiar scent of wood mingling with the faint trace of cleaning products. As she scanned the room, filled with a mix of familiar and unfamiliar faces, a small spark of hope ignited within her. The meeting flowed immediately into discussions about the town's needs, low attendance at support groups, deep-seated isolation among grieving families, which underscored the significant gap Claire aimed to fill. Like a match struck in a dark place, her ideas sparkled, igniting conversations she never expected to inspire. When she finally spoke, the words flowed from her, a symphony of intention and vulnerability. What if we create a space where grieving individuals can connect through their experiences with horses? They can find solace in the companionship of these beautiful animals, and from there we can build a foundation of support. She caught fleeting glances exchanged between the attendees, quizzical, intrigued, possibly skeptical. Each exchange deepened her nervousness. She presented her vision like an exquisite glass sculpture, delicate but alive, hoping it would not shatter in their concerted gaze. After some initial skepticism, an elder in the back chuckled. "Horses, eh? You think they'll listen better than we do?" The room erupted in laughter, and Claire's heart sank. For a brief moment, it felt like ridicule cloaked in humor. Her instinct was to shrink, to scurry back to the ranch and the safety of silence. But something anchored her. Recalling her ride earlier, an infusion of resolve sparked within her. She wouldn't let this moment define her. "All I'm asking is for you to give it a thought," she implored, projecting her voice as she gestured to the crowd. Grief can feel unbearable. If horses can help bridge connections between people, shouldn't we at least explore it? Silence descended, slowly transforming the energy in the room from light banter to contemplative intrigue. One by one, she caught the glimmers of connection reflected in their eyes. Claire's heart raced as she launched into the logistical details she had envisioned alongside Tom and Lisa. As her mind churned, she dissected every concern, every possible scenario that could unfold from implementing her idea. The meeting concluded with a tentative sense of acceptance settling into the conversation as people began to discuss possibilities. A flicker of hope ignited in Claire's chest. Perhaps the foundation of her vision was taking root. Yet lingering uncertainties held her back. Would they actually carry through with their enthusiasm beyond the confines of this room? The undercurrent of skepticism still writhed beneath the surface, a reminder of the path ahead, filled with negotiation and doubt. As the evening sun dipped low, casting long shadows through the hall, Claire's gaze drifted from faces she hoped to inspire to the flicker of self-doubt that still threatened. She had taken a step, but would it be enough to keep her momentum? With thoughts swirling, she whispered an internal vow to forge ahead, even if the resistance felt insurmountable. Tomorrow she would refocus her energy on solidifying the logistics with Lisa and Tom. And perhaps, as she walked the line between hope and trepidation, she'd find the strength required to face the doubts yet to come. As she stepped outside, ready to embrace the growing darkness, the question lingered in her mind. How much further could she stretch her vision before it broke? The next morning, Claire woke with a sense of purpose that had eluded her for months.
The sun filtered through the window, casting warm rays across her sheets, but she was already different. She felt transformed by the previous night's meeting. The laughter still echoed in her mind, mixing with the hope sparked by the curious expressions in the room. Determination settled in her bones, and as she rolled out of bed, the tingle of empowerment coursed through her. Before heading to the barn, she poured herself a cup of coffee and let the steam warm her hands. Each sip fueled her resolve. Today she would reach out to Lisa and Tom, laying plans that could turn her vision into reality. Clarity danced around her thoughts, replacing the fog of doubt that had clouded her mind for so long. Claire made a promise to channel her experiences, both the pain and the healing, in a way that could resonate with others. Upon arriving at the barn, Cassie trotted over with an enthusiastic whinny, nuzzling Claire's shoulder. This wasn't just a daily ritual, it was a silent assurance that spirit and resilience could thrive in the face of adversity. Claire took a moment to center herself, leaning into the comfort of the horse's warm presence. "We're going to do something important today, girl," she whispered, patting Cassie. As she groomed Cassie, Claire pondered logistics. What would the next steps be? She started drafting a bullet-point plan in her mind, recalling the discussions from the night before. Encouraging connections, developing schedules for visits, and collaborating on materials. Each point emerged with vivid clarity. After tending to Cassie, Claire grabbed her notebook and headed inside to call Lisa. They needed a strategy session. When the phone rang, her heart raced, recognizing that this was the juncture where her vision could either bloom or wither. "Hey, Claire," Lisa answered, her voice sunny and energetic, bringing a wave of comfort. "Hi, Lisa. I'm
feeling incredibly motivated today. Can we meet and go over our plans? I have a few ideas about how to move forward with the support group, ways to make it engaging with the horses involved." "Absolutely. Let's meet at the cafe in an hour. I can't wait to hear what you've got cooking." Hanging up, Claire felt a surge of adrenaline. This was not merely a meeting, it was a collaborative arena for possibility, where visions untrodden could come alive. She curbed her impatience and took a steadying breath. These moments of vulnerability, of sharing ideas, felt like stepping onto a stage, both exhilarating and terrifying. But she had to trust that her passion was infectious. As she walked to the cafe, Claire couldn't shake the sense of urgency surrounding her mission. Every person she met, the elderly couple by the park bench, the school kids eagerly waiting for the bus, could benefit from what she envisioned. Images of individuals forming bonds with horses, sharing stories of their grief, started cascading through her thoughts. Sipping her coffee, she felt moments of doubt prick at her confidence, but they were quickly subdued by an overwhelming desire to make a difference. Just as she was about to spiral into that familiar abyss of insecurity, Lisa arrived, her smile breaking through the tension. "Okay, let's dive in," Lisa said, taking a seat across from Claire, her enthusiasm infectious. Claire laid out her ideas, her words cascading like a waterfall. "We can set up structured visits with the horses, maybe workshop sessions on grief, combining storytelling and healing. If we engage both kids and adults, we could establish real connections." Claire's fervor captured Lisa's attention, and Claire could see the spark of possibility igniting in her eyes. Together, they brainstormed ideas, made lists of local resources, and envisioned interactive sessions that could create real bonds between people and horses. As they polished their plan, Claire's confidence bloomed like a wildflower reaching toward the sun. With each exchange, she became more aware of her ability to connect with others, to advocate for them, and to advocate for herself. But as they wrapped up their meeting, Claire couldn't shake the uneasiness. Would the town truly embrace her ideas? She was still navigating the unknown territory of personal ambition. "Remember, it's okay to feel nervous about this," Lisa reassured her, reading the conflict clouding Claire's face. "Growth comes from those moments of uncertainty." With a new perspective, Claire left the cafe invigorated but wary of the impending challenges. She had sparked a flame, but it required careful tending.
As she walked back to the barn, she recognized she was standing at a precipice, her vision at the cusp of realization. Tomorrow, she would more firmly confront the naysayers and skeptics, those who might question her intentions or dismiss the significance of her mission entirely. Where that path could lead was an unsettling question that lingered in her mind as she reached for Cassie, ready to embrace the process like never before. This was her moment, one that demanded hard decisions and
unwavering hope. And in the depths of her thoughts, a chilling realization settled. What if the biggest challenge she faced was the person looking back at her in the mirror? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft glow over the barn, Claire felt the weight of her conviction on her shoulders. She had returned home, but the security that once wrapped around her seemed tenuous now. Cassie nickered softly as Claire strode into the barn, the familiar smells of hay and leather evoking a deep sense of belonging that conflicted sharply with the uncertainty clouding her heart. Was her dream worthy? Would it resonate? With her hands finding comfort in Cassie's mane, Claire struggled against the growing tide of self-doubt. She had symptoms of both excitement and anxiety swirling inside her like a tempest. Each brushstroke across Cassie's coat felt like an attempted tether to her courage, a reminder of her commitment to the newfound mission. That night, she slept lightly, her thoughts swirling incessantly between possibilities of success and impending failure. What if the support group fizzled? What if she faced harsh criticism from the townsfolk? These questions gnawed at her, morphing into a mental whirlpool that threatened her resolve. The next morning brought a chilly bite in the air. Claire dressed quickly, her mind racing with preparations for the day ahead. She dove into focused tasks, trying to quell the undercurrent of trepidation that ran beneath her enthusiasm. Each chore became an act of defiance against her internal chaos, feeding the horses, mucking stalls, and organizing supplies for the upcoming discussions. In the stillness of the barn, she took a moment to breathe. With Cassie's soft presence amplifying her resolve, Claire reminded herself of the lives affected by her vision. This was more than an idea. It was a bridge for healing, a potential lifeline for others who met grief and loss head-on. Yet, doubts remained stubbornly woven into her daily routine, preventing her from fully embracing her path. She locked eyes with Cassie, seeing strength embedded in that animal's gentle nature. Could she harness that strength? The idea began to germinate as a new focus. Maybe it wasn't about erasing the fear, but leaning into it, using it to fuel her purpose. By mid-morning, Claire found herself in town, a notebook clutched tightly in her hand as she approached familiar faces. It was time to confront the critics head-on. She had already resolved that this would be her boldest move yet. Unfiltered dialogues with those who might question her endeavors. As she walked past the diner, a small group of residents stood outside chatting, familiar faces that often rippled with good-natured skepticism when she spoke about her venture. Claire's pulse quickened, but she pressed forward, drawing upon the resolve she had cultivated alongside Cassie. "Hey, everyone," she called out, the hint of nerves lacing her voice with an urgency that thrilled her. They turned to her, surprise flickering in their expressions. Perhaps it was the determined glint in her eye or the spine-straightening confidence that propelled her foot forward, but Claire felt momentum build within the crowd. If she wanted them to listen, she must be fearless. Claire approached, her heart thudding loudly in her chest. "I'm starting a support group for anyone experiencing grief, and I hope to incorporate the therapeutic benefits of horse interaction." She launched into the details, her voice steadying with each word. "I believe sharing our stories with one another and forming bonds with these beautiful animals can help us heal." Their reactions were mixed, some nodding while others exchanged skeptical glances. An older gentleman crossed his arms, adopting a skeptical stance. "You think some horses are going to help folks deal with their emotions?" he asked, disbelief evident in his furrowed brow. Claire took a deep breath, quickly formulating her response. It's not just about the horses. It's about building connections, sharing experiences, and allowing ourselves to process our grief in a safe, supportive environment. This is a path I've walked myself, and I want to offer that to others. Her voice rang with sincerity, infusing her words with conviction. The room seemed to hold its breath, tension coiling around them like thin threads of uncertainty. Claire felt both exposed and powerful, poised at a new frontier of her life, ready to break through barriers. Another moment of truth. As the conversation flowed, she realized that the only way to alleviate their doubts was to trust her passion to inspire others. Grudging support began emerging, subtle nods and murmurs of intrigued agreement brewing amongst the crowd. After wrapping up, Claire stepped away feeling fragile yet emboldened. The most difficult challenge, the face of skepticism, had been bravely confronted. But the nascent fear still lingered. Would this fleeting moment become an actual change, allowing her to settle into a new direction? While the future expanded before her, Claire grappled with the realization that the greatest battles lay not outside but within her. Determined to own her narrative, she wouldn't let doubt dictate her journey any longer. As the day wore on, one question took root. Could she sustain the courage needed to face whatever lay on the horizon? Deep inside, she knew the time was coming to confront more daunting figures, people who had the power to embrace or crush her dreams. The vision was alive, yet the path remained steep. As dawn broke over the ranch, Claire stood under the sprawling oak tree, an anchor of strength amid the new world swirling around her. The vibrant hues of morning light filled her with a sense of clarity. Here lay not just a dream, but her intention to solidify a legacy that transformed emptiness into healing. Today marked a distinct turning point. No longer would she cling to the shadow of her past, the widow defined only by loss. Instead, Claire was reclaiming her identity, rooted now in her purpose and acceptance. With renewed determination, she headed to the barn, where Cassie awaited, the trust in the mare's gentle gaze reaffirming her commitment. Claire had spent endless nights poring over plans and reaching out to potential allies, her notebook bursting with ideas that surged from a newfound depth of experience and wisdom. Now she would share these plans with the town leaders who had been indifferent to her dreams, until now. As the sun climbed higher, illuminating the path ahead, Claire felt a burden lift from her shoulders. Her objective was clear. She would affirm her vision of the horse therapy program and solicit support from not only the leaders but the entire community. This unwavering intention reverberated within her, transforming once crippling fear into a solid resolve. The meeting set to unfold that morning at the community hall buzzed with attendees eager to hear her ideas. She recalled the apprehension that had gripped her on that very first day, the net of anxiety entwining her every thought. Today, however, was different. She could feel her power pulsing through her, the words she had rehearsed cradling strength instead of hesitation. Stepping into the hall, she greeted familiar faces with a warm smile, the energy within her inviting and contagious. After the usual pleasantries, Claire captured the floor, her heart racing with anticipation. "Thank you all for coming today. I've been working tirelessly with a few supporters, and I'm on the brink of something remarkable, an opportunity for us to connect through grief with the help of horses." She launched into the core of her proposal, painting vivid illustrations of the therapeutic workshops, sharing not just statistics and facts, but the emotional stories that empowered her. Imagine a space where families can come together, where the gentle nature of a horse mirrors the healing we seek during our darkest days. Each phrase she uttered resonated with her audience, a vibrant connection threading through the energy in the room. As the presentation unfolded, she could feel the tide shifting. Questions arose, but they were no longer ones of skepticism. They were inquiries rooted in curiosity and encouragement. Would the horses be trained specifically for outreach? How would she address the needs of different age groups?
For every question, Claire delivered her answers with confidence, drawing upon the careful planning she had devised. The bond was strengthening, and with every response, she demonstrated solid preparation and a deep commitment to making this program a reality. What struck her deeply was the growing involvement of her supporters. Lisa and Tom joined her, echoing Claire's passion and commitment, addressing nuances of the logistics with the vigor of old friends. This wasn't just Claire's dream anymore. It felt like a collective movement, one that had the potential to galvanize the community toward healing. As the meeting wrapped up, the air felt charged with possibility, a palpable anticipation settling over the room. Claire listened, uncertain but exhilarated, as Thompson, the town leader who had initially struck her with tough questions, began to offer his support. "It appears we might have found common ground here. The community could use an emotional resource like this, and I see potential in what you presented. Let's discuss how we—"
This can ensure this takes flight. A wave of relief washed over Claire. The confidence that had blossomed beneath her doubts now found purchase in the approval from the very figures she had once feared. They had recognized her vision, moving it from mere suggestion to tangible reality on the horizon. With the meeting concluding on a high note, Claire stepped outside, the sun bright above her as thoughts danced through her mind in a whirlwind of achievement and future plans. The fears that had once gripped her began to dissolve, replaced by the pulse of hope and newfound confidence. She had not only envisioned her future, but crafted it meticulously. She was no longer the widow of her past. She was a leader building a pathway for others towards healing. Claire stood before Cassie once more, the steady rhythm of her heart harmonizing with the quiet strength of the mare. She scratched Cassie's ear, absorbing the solace of the moment. "We're doing this, girl. Together, we're offering something that the world truly needs." The powerful clarity that washed over her in that moment ushered in deep fulfillment, not just with her impending project, but with the reconciliation she had found with herself. By confronting her pain and building a semblance of connection through vulnerability, Claire discovered strength deeply rooted in authenticity. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the field, she realized she had achieved more than just a dream. She had conquered the past that had imprisoned her, forging a path to purpose born out of ashes. Claire was determined to step forward, granting herself the recognition and space to heal while offering it to others. With renewed clarity, Claire exhaled deeply, ready to embrace the day. She was home, and this time it was not only the land around her, it was the spirit of a woman who had reclaimed her story. Today was more than a turning point. It marked the beginning of an ongoing legacy of healing, growth, and profound transformation, the true essence of personal achievement. You need to subscribe now to follow Claire's inspiring journey and to ensure you don't miss the next batch of exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Make your voice heard through a like to feed the algorithm and spread the word. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how resilience can translate to personal victory. Don't wait even one more second to engage and be part of this empowering community.